Hey, what's going on, guys? Joe here, 690 ADB, 690ADB.com, radio 690 ADB. Welcome to the podcast. First things first, don't forget, subscribe to our podcasts. Like I said, if you're already a subscriber to YouTube, thank you. Fantastic. We appreciate you. If not, and you do podcasts, you can use iTunes, Google Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. We're still working on Amazon with Alexa. Those skills are still kind of freaking us out and cannot quite get that working right now, but we're still working on that. But don't forget to be part of that part and subscribe to our podcast. And first things first, I would like to give a shout out to our first Patreon. We do have a Patreon account, and I want to say how much I truly appreciate and want to thank Marcus Smallwood. He is our very first Patreon. He's our first supporter, and thank you, because that is kind of the direction we're going, because we're growing and we got things happening, and it costs money to do this stuff. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Every little bit counts, and I thank you so much. And if you'd like to be a supporter and you'd like to support the 690 ADB, you can go to our Patreon and sign up and be part of the 690 in more ways than you can even think of. So, and it helps so much with equipment, hosting, video stuff. I mean, everything that we do, I just can't tell you how much it helps out. So anyway, enough about that stuff. Thank you, Marcus, so much, and I do appreciate you. On to the podcast. Safety. That is a big deal to me, because you can never really be too safe on a motorcycle. Every time that you ride, you really, honestly, truly need to have your head in the game, because anything can happen out there, and there's so many idiots on the road behind the wheel of a car. And if you do ride motorcycles and you do drive in a car, you get it, because you're always paying attention. You're always looking out. You're looking for riders. You're checking out. You're keeping your space, and you're making sure you're not too close. And you're always making sure they have open areas if they need to get over, or if they need to make an emergency move or anything like that. So I do totally get that. I'm always thinking ahead when I go out and do my rides and stuff. I have had some people go and tell me, "Oh, you're gonna get hurt because you're moto vlogging and doing all that stuff." Trust me, I am paying attention, and I'm a good rider, but that still doesn't change the fact that I could get hurt one day. I do understand that. I take that responsibility, but it's what I do. But I really do take as many precautions as I possibly can. This podcast is really about, we have a saying, there's no such thing as a red light. And the reason being is because everybody knows that if you ride and you're out on the street, now, if you're off of the beaten path and you're out in the sticks and you're riding around, there's not a whole lot going on. So in all honesty, you're fairly safe in that realm. But in the city, it's a totally different world, because it's you against all the cars, the trucks, the semis, all that stuff. Intersections, if you've ever taken a safety course or anything like that, intersections are super, super dangerous, and that's where you really have to have your game on. Especially if you're a new rider, you definitely need to have your game on for that, because people don't pay attention. They just don't. And you go and you pull up, or you're riding with the group or anything like that, and you pull up to the stoplight. You wait your turn. Cars are zipping through the intersection. And most of the intersections here in Dallas-Fort Worth, they're not always going to be like that. Some of your small towns are just going to be one laners, but here they can be 2 and 3 lanes wide. And you wait your turn. The light turns green. You look both ways. You're like, "Hey, man, everything's perfect." You start cruising through. Well, you get that one guy. I can make it. And he's in that car. And that's not really funny, but that's the reality of it, is he thinks he can make it. But you've already proceeded into the intersection, and now you are part of what is going to happen next. And we don't need that. And that's what you really needed. That's what I mean by there is no red light. I mean, there's no such thing as they're all red lights. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't even matter. You have to always have your head on a swivel, because just because your light is green and theirs is red, cars, they just think they can just hit the gas and just blow right through the intersection and they're going to make it. Is it going to happen to you? Pretty slim. It does happen. And believe it or not, it happens more than you think. And most of the time it's just a car hitting a car. But when a car is accelerating super fast and hits something on two wheels that only weighs anywhere from 300 to 800 pounds, and that thing weighs, what, 4,000 pounds on a vehicle? Yeah, damage is done. You know, that's why I stress wearing helmets, jackets, pants, boots. I get it. You're like, hey, 690, I see you riding. You're not always wearing a jacket, and you're not always wearing. Look, guilty as charged. Okay, guilty as charged. I'm no better than a lot, but I always try to be better. I do. I always try to be better, and I always try to remember those things. But, you know, when you're out and you're riding around and you've already forgotten it, you're like, well, I don't want to ride home and go do it. And in all honesty, you should. But if you're 10, 20 miles away, you're not going to do that. So it's it. You know, that's all I can say. It's just, you know, kind of think a little before you ride and plan it a little bit. And if you can do that, then you can be one step ahead. That's kind of the kicker. And if you can be one step ahead, it totally decreases your chances of having any conflict or any issues or any chance of being in an accident or something like that. And, you know, the other thing is when you're riding in groups, you know, you have your lead and then you have your tail, depending on how many you're riding with. And if you have a guy that's in the front, then really the back guy should be, you know, really looking out for that guy in the front if he can. And if you're on comms, we talk on comms all the time, but some people don't have that luxury. And you can do hand signals or something like that. But if you're group riding, you know, it's really just a good idea to pay attention for everybody, you know. And if you have to run up, you know, speed up and get behind or get up on somebody and say, hey, look, man, you really need to start paying attention. You're making some pretty stupid moves, you know, catch them at a stoplight or something like that. It's always good. You know, constructive criticism is fantastic as long as it's truly constructive criticism. You know, the world's full of the best riders in the world, and nobody needs people telling, hey, you know what, I'm a better rider than you, blah, 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 and you need to do it my way. We don't need any more of that. What we need is people to start giving proper education and proper help and give factual information to other people so that they can learn. And that's really what it's all about. And so learning safety is a big deal. And I really think that safety is something that you really should consider making it a big focal point if you're a new or intermediate rider, and even seasoned riders. I see seasoned riders all the time out there riding around. You know, they don't have helmets on. They're not wearing safety gear. You know, they're not wearing eye protection. And you know what? It's your deal. Do what you want to do. But the problem is if something happens, you may not be married. I'm married. I have 2 boys. I have a fantastic life. You know, I get to ride motorcycles. I get to do those things. But if I do something stupid and I wreck my bike, you know, I can sit there and say, well, it's all me. But it's not me, because really what I really do is I hurt myself and I hurt all the others that are around me, which is my family. And even if you're not married, you're still going to hurt somebody. You know, you may be a 20-year-old, you know, young man or 16 and riding off road or something like that. And guess what? You may be doing something silly and stupid and wreck your bike and break a leg, or heck, who knows, break a collarbone, and you hurt yourself, but you really hurt your family too, because you have a mom, you have a dad, you have friends, you have all these things, and these people care about you as much as you may not think so, and you think you're just some loner. At the end of the day, hopefully, you're not that guy, that you're so arrogant that you don't have any friends and nobody wants to hang out with you because you're a know-it-all. And you do have people that care about you. And that's kind of a big deal, because it's such a great world to ride motorcycles and to get out and to get lost and to go do things and to ride around town. Heck, even just to go down to the Starbucks with a couple of buddies and have a coffee. That's awesome. I mean, it's fun because it's just you, your bike, and your buddies. And that's, you can't explain it and you can't describe it unless you do it. And if you do it, it is nothing short of it's just awesome. And it'll change your life. And it's so much fun. So if you are listening to the podcast and you are a new rider or an intermediate rider or any of that stuff, safety. Please pay attention. If you do have a family or if you have kids or anything like that, just pay attention. Think about what you're doing and think about what the cause and effect is for the actions that you do. And sometimes it's out of your control, and that just happens. And that's the way it is. It's like life. It just happens. But if you can control as much as you can really eliminate a lot of the potential pitfalls and problems, because remember, bad habits create bad habits. Good habits create good habits. And if you can kind of get your head wrapped around about what you're going to do. I mean, a lot of people just don't get on their bike and say, I'm gone, and they just take off and go ride. They kind of have a map in their head of where they're going to go and where you're going to ride to. I know I do. And just kind of know what you're going to do, where you live, your intersections, paying attention, and just remember, always look both ways and then do it again before you even roll into an intersection. Who cares about the cars behind you? They're in cars. You're on a bike. So just make sure you're always paying attention. Intersections are super, super dangerous. Stop signs are dangerous. And the other thing that you need to pay attention to is if you're riding around, country roads and stuff like that, with driveways and stuff that are basically on blind corners, pay attention, because blind corners are really dangerous too, because people can back out. They don't even see you, and you're going to have an emergency. And the worst scenario is another car's coming through that corner as well, and you have a head on, or you have to ditch your bike and go off into the woods or into a fence or something like that. So safety, safety, safety. That's all I can say. So, but anyway, safety is kind of the key word of the podcast today. And, I appreciate you stopping in, and hopefully this will help somebody. If I only help one person, I win. That's it. I win. So I appreciate you. Don't forget, we have a YouTube channel, 690 ADV at the YouTube spot. Don't forget youtube.com/690 ADV, iTunes, Google Podcasts. If you want to be a Patreon and sponsor the channel and help us out, we sure would appreciate it, because it's definitely getting to the point that we are growing and we're having to buy more things. And I do have a day job. Okay, I don't make all this money, and I do not have sponsorships. Actually, I'm sorry, I take that back. I do have one sponsor, Mr. Marcus. Thank you very much for your Patreon. That does help out a ton. So no KTM, no Senna, whatever you want. I don't have any of that stuff. That all comes out of my pocket to support and do all these things. So, but like I said, I appreciate your time. You guys have a fantastic day, and we look forward to the next podcast. And thank you so much. 690 out.